Thank you. Minute past the hour, new this morning. It may look like your typical smartphone, but law enforcement says a new device helps them respond more quickly and efficiently to emergencies at large-scale events. And now state police are trying out that new device at this year's state fair. Already, they say it's priceless. News 13's Catherine Mazzone has that story.
It can happen in the blink of an eye. Your child goes missing in a sea of people.
Losing your child for a second to 5 minutes is terrifying.
Tracking him down at an event like the state fair may seem impossible until now.
We're able to snap a picture of that one, send it to every officer, and within 5 to 10 minutes, that child's located.
It's all thanks to a new tool called a cellular on wheels, or CAL for short.
No matter what may happen to, say, your Verizon, your T-Mobile sites, we will always have contact with each other. It's just our own LTE network that allows us to communicate with just whoever is on the network.
Like a regular cell phone, officers can send a text message with just a push of a button to everyone else who has a device.
That's the sound that happens when either an officer has either a lost child or information on something.
New Mexico State Police Lieutenant Jeff Ray says not only do the new gadgets help them better communicate, he says they also allow them to use their resources more efficiently.
We're able to see where our officers are on the grounds. This is our pedestrian gate where officers are out making sure the pedestrians cross safely.
With an eye on all of his officers, Ray says he's able to minimize response times.
I can see on the map behind me where my officer is, the closest officer, and send them to there. I don't have to scramble and start getting on the radio asking. If they do not know where that location is, I'm able to tag it on a map.
Lieutenant Ray says the devices make all the difference when it comes to not only public safety, but officer safety.
Just to have the line of communication amongst all law enforcement, you can't put a price on that. Even if the officer can't communicate, we know where that officer is. You can't put a price on that.
It's why state police plans on using the CALs at every large-scale event in New Mexico from here on out.
It's a lifesaver.
Catherine Mazzone, KRQE, News 13.
The CALs are in a trial period here in New Mexico as part of a federal plan to build out permanent public safety networks nationwide. That amounts to establishing towers like any commercial provider would have, Verizon, AT&T, except these would be strictly for law enforcement and emergency responders. The state's chief information officer, Daryl Ackley, says New Mexico's been working on a public safety broadband for years. He says we received a federal grant in 2011 to start the project. Now, New Mexico is one of 5 states in the country receiving money from the feds for the project.
I think we saw as a state the need to move into this arena from a technology perspective ahead of the curve.
Ackley says a permanent version of the cell on wheels is expected to go up near the southern border in the coming years. News 13 asked Ackley about cost for these devices and the network once this federal grant has run out. He says the hope is that the cost is close to what emergency responders already pay to use their smartphones. You can expect to see more of the CALs in the coming few weeks, just a few weeks now. Law enforcement plans to use them and carry them at Balloon Fiesta 2. Fairgoers can't find them, but organizers say they're everywhere. Water fountains at the state fair. Staying hydrated, it's a must during a long day under the sun at the New Mexico State Fair. And that's why Bennett Hammer brought in a water bottle to fill up. What he didn't bring is cash because admission is free, or it was free when he went. He figured that he'd just find a water fountain. Easier said than done, apparently.
I became curious about it. I said, maybe the other bathroom has them, or maybe the other one does. And I looked, then I went through a couple of buildings, and there was nothing there.
An Expo New Mexico spokesperson says there are a lot of water fountains conveniently located throughout the fairgrounds, so we figured we'd check it out. What did we find? They're there, but no one seems to know about them. They're not as easy to find as the $3 water bottles that vendors are selling. Places with water fountains include the Tingley Coliseum and the Manuel Lujan exhibit complex. 6:05 in developing this morning, we could learn more about a double shooting in the East Mountains. This as Bernalillo deputies continue their investigation. It happened in a remote area south of Tijeras off Forest Road 462 and the Coyote Canyon Trail, commonly known as Chamisoso Canyon Road. When deputies got there, they found a man dead from a gunshot wound and a woman shot and injured. She was airlifted to the hospital. Her condition's not been released. Deputies say the area where the pair was found is a remote wooded area. Right now, they're trying to figure out if they were out there together.
It is a very remote area. There's not, it's basically Jeep trails and bike trails up in the area. There's not any homes in the area. So, like I said, detectives are trying to figure out and piece together exactly what took place.
Deputies say they don't believe there's any danger to the public, but they won't say why. We have learned new details in that shooting this morning, though. Detectives say they found what appears to be homemade explosives while investigating the scene. The Bernalillo County Sheriff's Department says while they were serving a search warrant in connection with the double shooting, they found explosive devices inside the home, along with several other materials used to make explosives. Deputies now say those packages were safe. They've been disposed of. Residents have since been let back into their homes as well. A former Albuquerque teacher who admitted to using a camera to look up little girls' skirts at Cliffs Amusement Park is back in jail this morning. In 2007, Chris Lucero used a camera on his shoe to look up skirts at Cliffs. APS fired him, and he was sentenced to 5 years probation. According to a probation parole report, in July, Lucero went to Isleta Resort and Casino and was caught taking pictures up a woman's dress. Lucero was charged with a new count of voyeurism.
And we're going to stand by the fact that a man like this needs to go to prison. He needs to receive treatment, and we need to take him very seriously as somebody who has a deviancy issue.
Yesterday in court, Lucero agreed to serve a year in jail for violating his probation. Walmart is beefing up its workforce for the holidays now. The retail giant says it will add 60,000 workers to meet the shopping demand. Walmart also plans to have more open registers and add department managers at 3,500 stores. New video of a California teen's arrest is catching a lot of attention this morning on social media.
Get off of here!
Emilio Mayfield says he was trying to catch a bus to school when he was stopped by a Stockton police officer. This happened. Stockton police say the 16-year-old was standing in a bus lane, and when an officer told him to move, he cursed and refused to. 9 more officers responded to a call for backup. The NAACP claims that officers used unnecessary force and crossed the line. Yesterday afternoon, protesters showed up at the bus depot in support of Emilio. He still needs to appear before juvenile court to respond to his 2 citations. Chris, thanks. New this morning, an intersection in southeast Albuquerque is back open after a pedestrian was killed last night. Just before 7 o'clock, police say that person was crossing the intersection of Zuni and Dallas when he was hit by a car. The man was taken to UNMH, where he later died. Police say they don't think the driver is at fault and that the pedestrian was crossing in a non-crosswalk area. No names have been released. Happening this morning, the city of Albuquerque is using a new plan to save hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on its cell phone bill. As you know, in this digital age, more and more city workers are using mobile devices. And last year alone, get this, the city paid more than $2 million on wireless accounts. That includes things like smartphones, Wi-Fi hotspots, push-to-talk. The biggest users of mobile devices for the city are Albuquerque police.
We always have at least one detective from each of the investigation units on call at all times.
While it is necessary for police, the city did make cuts to some city workers' mobile device usage.
We have now a controllable span of who has them and why.
The city says it saved $17,000 in just 1 month, and they expect to save nearly $200,000 a year under a new plan. You can take a look at the top 10 agencies by mobile usage. Just head to the KRQE News app. Check it out yourself. APS's interim superintendent returns to work under a new contract. It's been approved by the school board. Raquel Reedy was appointed to the position this week after a 5-to-1 vote. She's taking over after the resignation of Luis Valentino. Reedy will be paid an annual salary of $200,000, and her contract runs through June 30th of next year. Happening now, an Albuquerque police officer facing murder charges in the death of homeless camper James Boyd is receiving a lot of support. Freedom Foundation will host a benefit dinner, dance, and auction for APD officer Dominique Perez. The group's website says proceeds will go to his defense fund. However, nothing's been planned for the other APD officer, Keith Sandy, who's also charged in Boyd's murder. The latest tallies on Fundraiser.com show that Perez has received more than $21,500. Sandy, just over $1,600. It is day 2 today of a military pretrial hearing to determine the fate of former Army Sergeant Bo Bergdahl. He's the American POW taken hostage by the Taliban after he deserted his post in Afghanistan. The 29-year-old stands accused of desertion and misbehavior before the enemy in the 2009 incident. The charges carry a possible sentence of life in prison. Today, lawyers for Bergdahl will attempt to get more of his side of the story out to the public amid harsh criticism that he's already received.
Many people have made up their minds. I think it would be healthy for everyone to have more information rather than less information.
The defense will call its own witnesses to the stand today, including a major general who conducted the Army's investigation into Bergdahl's disappearance. Also happening today, the friend of the Charleston shooting massacre suspect is expected to be arraigned. He's accused of lying to authorities about how much he knew about the attack. Joey Meek was arrested yesterday by the FBI. The 21-year-old took Dylan Roof in just weeks before the killings in June. And Pope Francis will be in Cuba tomorrow. He delivered a special message to the island nation ahead of the historic visit yesterday. The pontiff delivered that message, aired on state-run television in Cuba. Few Cubans are regular churchgoers in the country, which is led by a communist government. Now let's take a live look over Washington, D.C. Capitol Hill this morning. Right now, Republican leaders are planning votes today on measures going after Planned Parenthood and some abortion procedures. GOP lawmakers say they're outraged over this summer's release of secretly recorded videos reportedly showing Planned Parenthood executives discussing the use of aborted fetuses in medical research. House Republicans want to end all government funding for Planned Parenthood. The issue came up in this week's second GOP presidential debate, too.
We shouldn't be sending $500 million of taxpayer money to funding an ongoing criminal enterprise.
This is about the character of our nation. And if we will not stand up and force President Obama to veto this bill, shame on us.
Democrats oppose those bills. The showdown between both sides could lead to a federal shutdown. In a statement issued last night, the White House called the shutdown threat a game of chicken with the economy that we cannot accept. We did some checking this morning and found that the man who police say stole a truck drunk, and when he crashed into a cop, he remains locked up this morning.
They had to pry the door open to get him out. The door was crushed so far in that the cop could not get out.
Well, it all unfolded yesterday as police say the suspect, Rayburn Apache, was driving a stolen truck when he smashed into a truck sitting at a red light at Central in Zuni. That vehicle then hit APD officer Martin Smith's unit, which hit the car in front of him.
We're lucky that this accident wasn't a lot more serious, and we do have everyone in custody that needs to be in custody.
Police say Apache was driving on a revoked license because of his past DWIs. Officer Martin Smith was trapped. He has neck pain, several cuts. You might remember him, though. Lapel camera video showed him performing CPR on a 7-month-old girl, helping to revive her.
You need to go down. It's going to flood.
This new video, intense video, shows hikers desperately rushing to safety at the start of flash flooding in Utah. In Zion National Park Monday, the video was taken halfway up the 1,500-foot climb in the national park. You can hear the sense of urgency there. These hikers did all make it out alive, but the bodies of 7 other hikers were found in the park. New this morning, those hikers have all been identified. They are from California and Nevada. The Park Service said a nearby river rose rapidly during the flooding on Monday afternoon. A flash flood warning was established and all of the canyons were closed. But a park official says the park rangers could not get word to people who were already in the canyons. More than a dozen high school kids in Virginia will not be in class this morning after being suspended for wearing Confederate flags. The students showed up to the school wearing them yesterday. The school's dress code bans the flag because it's considered offensive. This is video of the students protesting the decision across the street after they were told to leave. According to Montgomery County Schools, 25 students were involved. 17 of them were given out-of-school suspensions. The other students received in-school suspensions. And new on this Friday morning, the Texas teenager who became the center of a national controversy after a clock that he made was mistaken for a bomb is withdrawing from his school. Ahmed Mohammed was arrested on Monday after his teacher called police. Some believe that Mohammed was targeted by the school and police because he's Muslim. His father says while they have not picked a new school for him, he will be transferring elsewhere. Still to come.